Can Pedro find his perfect princess? Original story by Bird Hide Stories. In a warm kingdom with lots of forest, there lived a peacock named Pedro. Pedro was truly a beautiful peacock. His feathers shimmered with golden colors, and when he spread his tail, it looked like a magnificent fan of jewels. Pedro knew he was beautiful, and he was very proud of it.
I'm the most beautiful peacock in the whole wide world,
Pedro would often say to himself.
I need to find a peahen who's just as beautiful as me to be my partner.
Sometimes, when Pedro was walking in the forest, he would spread his beautiful tail feathers wide. Everyone will come and admire his beauty.
Oh, Pedro,
one of the little peahens exclaimed.
Your feathers are so beautiful today.
But Pedro would usually take a glance at those peahens and puff out his chest.
Yes, I know. It's a shame you're so ordinary,
he said unkindly. Those little peahens felt offended and angrily left, leaving Pedro alone. But Pedro didn't care. He thought to himself,
I need to find someone whose beauty matches mine. Where are you, my princess?
Sometimes, when the birds were having a dance party, Pedro would show off his dancing skills. He fluffed his feathers and began to dance. Some peahens saw him and flew over to join in. But when Pedro saw one of the peahens dancing next to him, he stopped abruptly.
Oh my!
Pedro laughed.
Is that what you call dancing? You look like a clumsy elephant.
Poor little peahen was so embarrassed that she left the party in tears. But Pedro didn't feel bad at all.
I'll find a perfect princess who can dance as well as me. I need to keep looking.
Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. All the other peacocks and peahens in the forest found partners and friends. But Pedro remained alone. He was so picky that he couldn't find anyone he thought was good enough for him. One day, feeling a bit lonely, Pedro went for a walk by the big lake in the middle of the forest. As he approached the water's edge, he saw the most beautiful peahen he had ever seen. This peahen had shimmering, colourful feathers, and when it moved, it seemed to dance with grace Pedro had never seen before. Excited, Pedro waved his wing. To his delight, the beautiful peahen waved back. Pedro started to dance, and the other peahen matched his moves perfectly. Pedro's heart began to race.
At last, I found my perfect princess,
he thought. Without thinking, Pedro ran towards the beautiful peahen. But instead of meeting his perfect match, Pedro found himself splashing into the cold lake water. It was nothing more than his own reflection.
Help! Help!
Pedro cried out, splashing and struggling in the water. Just as he thought he might drown, he felt someone grab him and pull him to shore. Coughing and spluttering, Pedro looked up to see who had saved him. To his surprise, it was just an unremarkable little peahen.
Thank you for saving my life,
Pedro said with a gasp.
You are...
The little peahen said,
It's Aria, don't you remember me? You once told me that I danced like a clumsy elephant.
Oh,
Pedro remembered now and felt a bit awkward. Arya saw that and mocked.
I was just walking here and I can't believe what I saw. Did you really fall in love with your own reflection? I've never met anyone so in love with themselves before.
Pedro tried to stay cool.
You misunderstood. I was just staring at some fish in the lake.
But Arya saw Pedro's lie. She helped him to his feet and continued.
Pedro, you've been pursuing perfection all along, but perfection doesn't actually exist.
Arya patted the dust off her feathers.
Do you know why peacocks have such different feathers?
Pedro shook his head.
It's not just to look pretty. It's to remind us that true beauty comes in many forms. Some peacocks have bright blue feathers, others have green. Some have spots, others have stripes. But they're all beautiful in their own way.
Pedro was stunned and didn't know what to say. Arya smiled, turned and walked away. Pedro stared at her back, thinking about what Arya had said. From that day on, Pedro started to observe and know everyone in the forest, finding that everyone is different and unique in their personalities. Pedro found Ira again.
Arya, I started to understand what you said. You have the wisdom that I don't have. Can you tell me more?
Pedro asked.
Of course, Pedro, I'd love to.
Arya smiled. Pedro blushed. He thought her smile was pretty. Soon, Pedro and Arya became the best of friends. They would often be seen walking together through the forest, laughing and talking. Pedro learned to appreciate Arya's quick wit and kind heart, realizing these qualities were far more valuable than any beautiful feathers. As time passed, Pedro and Arya's friendship grew into something more. They fell in love, not because of how they looked on the outside, but because of who they were on the inside. On a beautiful spring day, surrounded by all their forest friends, Pedro and Arya had their wedding and became a couple. Everyone cheered. Pedro has never felt happier than this. He has finally found his perfect princess. From then on, Pedro understood that while outward beauty is important, inner beauty is what lasts. Only by learning to appreciate and accept others could he find his true happiness. Follow us for more fantastic journeys. We will see you in the next Bird Hide Stories. Good night.